Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to the Alldus podcast, AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Jimi Li. Jimi is the Chief Technology Officer at ALM. Jimi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, JP. Thanks for having me.
Delighted to have you. So, Jimi, lots to cover today. Let's start with yourself, please, as we do with all of our guests. Could you give us an overview of your background in technology and what your journey has been from where you got started, some of the roles you've held along the way, and what's led you to where you are today as the CTO at ALM?
Sure. I actually started as a software engineer for a startup. Actually, there's a funny story there because when I interviewed for the startup, I have no idea how to program. So I locked myself in a room for 5 days and bought several books and pretty much didn't sleep that week. And I went to the interview and got the job. Basically self-taught my programming for myself. And after that, I pretty much spent the past 20 years working across enterprise environments. So from GE to L'Oreal to Coach, News Corp, and now at ALM. I think there's something, if you look at my journey, it spans across financial services, retail, luxury, media, data, technology. But what's in common is I help organizations to do transformation, right? Lead through digital transformation, now AI transformation, help them to modernize their core platforms, data solution platform, ERP, CRM, commerce, now AI, right? And so my most recent role is that ALM Global, where I'm the CTO and CIO for the business. So for ALM, it's quite funny because within legal industry, almost everybody knows us because we are one of the biggest legal intelligence company in the industry. But outside of it, barely anybody know who ALM is, right? So
let's set the stage then for people listening here outside the legal space. Tell us all about ALM, who you are, what you do, mission of the business.
Sure. So we are a legal media, legal data intelligence company. Traditionally come from a publishing background. So we had newspaper, magazines, events, but in the past, I would say 10 years, we have transitioned into fully a digital company based on B2B business model, a subscription model. My focus there has been leading, I would say, all areas of technology from infrastructure to data solution, product management, product engineering, enterprise software, those kind of things. But I would say the focus is helping the business to go through digital transformation, to a certain extent, changing the business, how the business operate. And very recently, a very large scale AI transformation, not just experimenting with AI, but truly embedding it into how the business operate and how we grow.
So that's where I want to spend the next part of the conversation. Let's talk about that roadmap. Obviously, yourself and senior leadership made a decision, a strategic move a few years ago to evolve beyond just traditional digital transformation into AI transformation. So walk us through that journey from high-level executive. This is what we're going to aim to accomplish. These are the steps that we're going to take if a crawl, walk, run approach. And something you mentioned to me earlier was protecting ALM from the pitfalls and often the mistake that many companies make, which is adopting AI projects that have a very high failure rate. So 2 parts, walk us through the journey, and then what did you learn in avoiding the paths to failure on AI projects?
Our experience for AI, coming up with an AI strategy or AI adoption is really at the top level. I think it has to be a top-down approach, right? So at the executive level, I basically have to partner with all of my peers, right? Whether it's a CFO, Chief Strategy Officer, COO. Our philosophy is AI adoption is there's no such things as AI strategy, right? What it really is a business strategy. So you see a lot of, I would say, AI implementation or project failure that's led by the IT team, the technical team alone, right? And I think that's where things tend to go wrong. So the real value of AI is when AI is become invisible, is become part of the workflow. That's where it shines. It adds real value, business value. And to do that, you need domain expertise, domain knowledge, right? And for that to happen, you have to partner with your cross-functional leaders. Basically, what I'm saying is that AI at the top level is really a team sport. It's not
Mhm.
a solo mission led by CIO or CTO.
Yeah. And we were talking off air about the work that's gone in at ALM with obviously your leadership. Help us visualize the current landscape of the technology team and where you're utilizing aspects of AI successfully and the business impact.
So I'll give you one example, right? So we have external facing products that serve the the lawyers, attorneys, law firm partners. One of our flagship products is called law.com. So what we do is we structure our team to form a cross-functional pods, what we call the fusion team. So you have teams from the business, the sales team, the marketing team, and also from operation team, the strategy team. So each of the small pod or the fusion team, actually they're structured by product lines and they have a goal to achieve. So by implementing the team that way, we can quickly test new ideas, right? And this is where AI actually accelerate that process. And we used to have a ratio between a product manager and the software engineer with ratio of 1 to 8, 1 to 9.
Wow.
But because of the utilization of AI, where we found that we can come up with produce code much more faster.
Yeah.
So recently we're experimenting the ratio to become 1 to 3, 1 to 5, right? So the efficiency has improved so much to a point that it's the developer is no longer the bottleneck, right? So before,
Yeah.
like 5 years ago, it used to be the business demand the feature, and it takes us months to ship that software, right?
Yeah.
But now we can ship it much more faster. And the bottleneck is actually on the customer side. Are they ready to test it? Are they ready to embrace it? So because of that, we have to really restructure our team and change the dynamic and change our focus. So AI really have brought a profound organizational, I would say, impact in terms of how we look at our business, how we deliver value to our customers.
Yeah. One of the other things that you mentioned to me when we were speaking earlier was about the impact and the evolution of the technology department. With the advancement of AI capabilities, you've just explained the impact of the ratios and the efficiencies that creates tremendous opportunity for you and the overall business to do more quicker, faster, have more of an impact. But the implications to the dynamics of the technology team shifts. There's a lot of discussion around the impact of AI, what will it do for people's jobs, and there can be some fear mongering associated. But
Mhm.
whenever I speak to leaders in the space, we tend to see the more optimistic side of the opportunity and the new positions. When you look at the potential and the roadmap going ahead, just purely through an IT lens, where do you see the the landscape evolving, and how will that translate to the structure of the broader workforce?
The way I look at that is, well, first of all, I think let's talk about the bigger problems, right? So that I see when we talk about AI adoption, when we talk about why a lot of those AI project fails, in my mind, there are three major reasons, right? Number one is the mindset, right? So, I'll give you one example. Summarization, right? Summarization, everybody thinks summarization is so easy, is the table stake. At ALM, we do tens of thousands of legal complaints every day, right? And different states have different format, different edge cases, and the requirement is the customer demand 99.9% accuracy, something that they can truly trust, right? So that requires model fine-tuning, AI engineering, multi-agent, fact check, those kind of things. A lot of engineering effort, a lot of planning involved. But most of the time, people look at it differently. They think AI as a black box, a magic solution that all you have to do is chat with the chat box or call API, and that the model will do the rest of the job. So having that mindset will lead to a lot of failures in projects, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is really context. When we talk about what I mean by context is, AI really relies on people to feed in through prompt, documentation, or feedbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those things for AI to function accurately.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of those knowledge or context exists in people's head.
Yeah.
And they those are the so-called institutional knowledge that AI doesn't have, right? So this is another reason why when people complain about, yeah, the AI result is not that good, right?
Yeah.
Because of what? Because they lack the critical context. And the
Yeah.
context come from the employees. And the last thing I would say is the ecosystem. So really, I think what differentiate what people call the AI frontier or the power users and the average users is the tolerance level for
Mm-hmm.
friction. So the majority of the AI implementation is still in the form of chatbot, sidebar, right? So it requires the users to step outside of their core workflow and engage with it separately. That adds friction. And you still have to think about what the right questions to ask. So in my opinion, the best AI actually has to be invisible and fully embedded into the user's workflow. So those are the three reasons. Let's talk about, what does that mean to us, right? So from I would say, software leader's perspective, someone who shipped software to our customer, what's important for us is number one, we have to digitize ourselves first. So what I mean by that is, we're all talking about digital transformation for our world, for our environment, for our platform. Have you ever think about your knowledge or your learning? Does that exist in a digital format? Because when AI, look at AI as an amplifier,
Mm-hmm.
as an accelerator of what we do, right? As we progress in that journey, human being, you and me, will soon become the bottleneck because the majority of the workflow still requires some human in the loop. We need AI to take care of the commodity work, the tasks, but we're still the one to make decisions. But guess what? To make that decision, it requires context. AI cannot make those decisions. So human will soon become the bottleneck that slow everything down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And context becomes the most important thing. But imagine if you have a second brain, a digital brain that has the context. If when you are not available, right, AI can actually work with your digital brain to make those decisions, right? So I think that is what we need to do next, right? To
Mm-hmm.
fully embrace AI and to digitize ourselves first, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a danger to that because when you overuse AI, you tend to lose some of those critical cognitive functions as well. But that's a different topic.
Yeah, certainly. We could do a whole podcast on that one. Continuing on your point and translating it to the impact at ALM, when you look at the near-term project roadmap through the lens of improving AI adoption, What does that look like? And most importantly, what are you excited about for the year ahead at ALM and continuing to benefit from AI and its capabilities?
Absolutely. So we basically look at AI. Well, first of all, AI has to create real values, right? And we categorize those values in three categories. Number one is what we call the employee value, right? So, you do things more efficiently, help with productivity, but those kind of value is very difficult to translate that directly into monetary value. So
Mhm.
when you say, when engineers say, I saved 15% or 2 hours every day, the hours saved doesn't translate into cost saving directly,
Mhm.
right? So be careful with that because a lot of times when enterprises, companies look at real monetary measurable AI value, employee value is probably not the most obvious one, right? So if your company is looking for that, I would suggest to look at the other two types. The second type is what we call the ROI. So ROI value, what it really is really the, let's say, workflow transformation, reimagining the workflow so things can be much more productive, right? That translate into cost saving. Or
Yeah.
you can produce software, produce your results much faster, that result in a measurable revenue increase with existing business model. So that's the second part. And that's a lot of what we do, when we look at how do we evaluate the use cases, right? How do we connect that with the sales team, with our revenue goal? So the third part is what we call the strategic value. So things like new business model, right? So for example, for ALM, we come up with a new product, what we call the legal radar product that provides alerting services, right, for attorneys, for law firm partners to better inform them on their business decisions, right? So, and this is a new product that never existed before. It's a new territory for us. It has a very minimal impact on our existing product lines. And for us, this is has a huge potential, huge upside. This is something that we decided to invest a lot of energy and our focus in. And to us, the strategic value and potential monetary value definitely makes sense, right? So I think not only for ALM, I think this framework probably applies to the majority of the company who are looking to materialize that value.
Yeah. So insightful, super helpful, breaking it down into those 3 points. Jimmy, where I'd like to finish is on the people side of AI. When you look at the success that ALM has had in its AI adoption, a large part of it has been executive leadership, top-down buy-in, and focusing on impact into those three areas which you've touched on. The other part of it was you had talented people who could help you execute on the strategy, which I know is super important. When
Mhm.
you look at the road ahead for ALM in its AI strategy, what are the types of positions that you see being in demand or needed to continue on this road? And where do you anticipate strengthening your already talented team?
The first category I would say is data people, right? So obviously, when we talk about AI, data has to be the foundation. And in fact, for ALM is the main differentiator from some of those legal technology company because we have a lot of data that we accumulated for the past 20, 30 years, which our clients are finding it extremely valuable. And but the problem is the data oftentimes is very messy, is not ready for use for AI, right? So that requires data engineering, the data solution team. And and before you tend to look at data as a silo, right? Where you have data engineers, you have a different group of data scientists. But for us, we actually it's similar to the software developer where we used to differentiate, front end, back end, but now it's all full stack, right? For
Mhm.
data folks, I think is going towards that direction as well. So the first category is data. And the second category is it's a kind of an evolution of product managers.
Mm-hmm.
So product managers are very important for us because they have the domain expertise. They know what our customer want, but most of them don't have the technical expertise, right? But with vibe coding, with the AI advancement, we're seeing product manager actually play a more and more important role in the organization. People who actually want to embrace technology and utilize and willing to try. They don't have to wait for the developers to come up with something. They can just vibe code a prototype and collaborate together with the developers that way. So that's the second category. The third category I see is the developers. And this is the one that I see that has the most potential or the most amount of changes, right? So for developers, what I'm looking for is someone who actually understands business, who are curious about what their work will have, what kind of impact for the business. So they're not a pure execution function, right? So in terms of I just have to code something, I need to deliver what they asked me to do. In fact, they need to be a technology partner where they have to ask the right question and determine whether or not it makes sense, right? So that actually requires a higher order of thinking from a development standpoint. But all three type of talent, I think is very much needed. And we're definitely always on the look for those type of talent.
Jimmy, thank you so much for coming on today and talking to us. It was an absolute pleasure. First of all, it was amazing to learn about your own start in technology, self-taught, and into your first role is unique. But it obviously sparked something and has led you to a very long and successful career. But most importantly, the look into the AI strategy at ALM, how it's working, your approach to it, and why it's so successful, and finally, then the road ahead sounds like there's going to be continued advancement of the AI strategy at ALM and the insight into the types of positions and opportunity that will come off it. So we wish you, the team, and everyone at ALM the very best of luck in the year ahead. We look forward to having you back on the show again in the near future.
Thank you so much, JP. It was such a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.